This is the beta when you're in Vail. I think it's sports certified. It's just air. I would be very surprised if it wasn't. Take it. Some extra oxygen in your system. I just sip on this like it's water throughout the day. I actually find it really helps. I feel like like I just took a nice deep breath. It's definitely beta. Gotta take this with me in my round. So here we are again. For anyone who has been following the channel since the very beginning, you will be familiar with just how much the Vail North American Cup messed me up last year. So last year, I have a video of this up on the channel. It's from the first little season of Comp Climb I did. The videos are super old and kind of hard to watch. But if you want to go rewatch the Vail one really quick, just to get some context, I think it might make this video a bit more interesting. But anyway, the Vail North American Cup really messed me up last year because I had missed semis by one attempt. And I remember I was feeling in really good comp shape back then. At least I felt like I was in good comp shape relative to the times. I had like a shaky previous year and I was just getting back into climbing. And at that point I had like reached really, really good shape and felt like I could do really well at the Vail North American Cup. And so obviously missing semis by one attempt was very disappointing. Now that being said, I think that I didn't have very good perspective back then, because what I want to say now is that I think going into this event, I am in the best comp shape I've ever been in. I've been really thinking about this and I think it's true. I've been telling this to my family and to Maddie. The way that I feel right now is I feel like I'm the best hybrid of being very strong relative to my abilities, very, very smart, very intuitive. I feel like my comp intuition is at like the highest height it's ever been at. It's funny, obviously I've been separated from Maddie for a couple weeks and she's been back in Montreal training. And she's been like texting me videos of climbs she's been doing like mid-session. And she's like, hey, Zach, what's the beta for this boulder? And I've been able to like read every boulder that she gives me from just seeing it on a video, and then it'll work for her. And every boulder that I go into a session, I understand it so quickly. And it's something that I've just been feeling in the back of my head, which I've not felt this smart ever, I think. And even like in the last little vlog that we did with Matt, I was like, beta reading was like my strength in that session, right? Whereas Matt was just crazy strong. But anyway, yeah, I feel like this crazy hybrid of being really strong, maybe not the strongest I've ever been, but that's not the point. Like being strong is not all you need for competitions. So I feel like a good hybrid of being strong, very, very smart, confident, having also a very good headspace in regards to competing. Like I talk about a lot on this channel, making these YouTube videos and documenting my process and making sort of the whole training process have value and be worth something. It basically takes less pressure off of myself to perform at an event, right? Because it's not like all the training that I put into one event was for nothing, because I got to showcase all of the training in it, and I find value in it from showing the process on YouTube, having fun with it. This sort of feeling that I've lost over the years because I've been putting too much pressure on myself to compete. And if the comp didn't go well, then all of the months of training was for nothing. And so I found a much more healthy headspace of making sure the training is all worth something, whether the comp goes well or not. So I'm feeling really strong, really, really smart, and I don't have this unhealthy sort of pressure that I've had on myself in previous years. So anyway, this is all to say, I just feel it. I feel it in the air. I feel really good about this event. And if I don't face unlucky sort of factors, I feel like this event should go really well for me. And obviously here we are. I haven't mentioned that this is the morning of qualifying. It's, what is it? It's 9 o'clock. My qualifying round starts at 1 p.m. And so I'm just doing some bit of like a pre-brief, I guess you could say. Just gathering my thoughts before I go compete. And anyway, while I say that I don't have too much pressure on myself to compete. I more mean that it's not unhealthy pressure. So I've obviously said in the previous training videos that my goal is to like win this event. The Vail North American Cup is not the Vail North American Cup. Competing in this venue at Vail is like, I guess it's kind of like my dream to do well in this venue. Ever since I have been to like the Vail World Cup, like years and years ago, I think I did it twice. And then I also did last year's Vail North American Cup. I cannot describe the feeling of being in this venue, like being in the atmosphere, like the hype, the excitement. The crowd is massive for finals. It's like, it's not even about winning this competition or even doing well in this competition that is motivating me. I want to feel what it's like to put on a crazy performance in front of the crowd at Vail, in the stadium, in the mountains, in such a cool city. It's like, that's sort of the dream of mine, is to do well in this venue at Vail, because I feel like it must be so exciting and so exhilarating. And so, ever since I competed at my first World Cup in Vail, doing well here has been like my dream. And that's what's motivating me, basically, is I'm motivated to go feel that excitement, that exhilaration of like performing well in front of this crowd and at this venue. And it's not even like I'm chasing after the number per se. It's more about the atmosphere. And I really want to feel that, because it's been a while since I've felt sort of like a big sense of like euphoria from competing. I've had a few years without that, I'd say. And I want to feel something new again in regards to like being in a competition. So that's like my biggest motivation, honestly, for this competition. I also have a quick fun fact before we go start competing. We have been training in Denver for a week and a half. We've had 6 training days. Most of those days were double sessions. 2 of them were not. But anyway, 6 training days in 4 different gyms. And I have not walked away from a boulder unsent. So I just wanted to say this because this is like really where I am realizing just how good of shape I'm in. I've tried a lot of different styles of boulders in the last few episodes of Comp Climb, and I haven't left a boulder undone. And there have definitely been some boulders where I'm like, okay, it's time to walk away from this one. Let's go continue on with the session. Let me just put one more try on, and then I'll do it. So it's not like we've just been sticking to soft boulders. Anyway, this is giving me like another layer of confidence and excitement going into this competition, that I feel like I really belong here, and I feel like I really belong at the top of the field. And if I can just put all of my cards together, just like keep a level head and put in a good performance, then I think it could turn out well. But anyway, I guess I also have to mention this Vail North American Cup is extremely competitive. There are, I think, 120 guys this year. Last year there were 130, and all of the strong names show up to this competition, and anyone cannot make semifinals. There are just so many strong climbers, and that's what happened to me last year, right? I did not make the semifinals. So while I'm recording this, we might be seeing like a bit of a sadder Zach, like 5 minutes later into the video. But I don't know. Like I said, I've definitely been leaning into the process more, but it would feel bad not to make semifinals. So today is like almost more important than what tomorrow would be potentially if I advanced onto the semis and finals. I don't want to get caught up in the qualifiers again. But at the very least, it's not going to mess me up as much as it did last year. So these are my pre-round thoughts that I'm feeling. But anyway, I've been rambling on long enough. Let's jump into my biggest competition of the year, the Vail North American Cup. It's extremely competitive, but I have never fine-tuned my condition and my shape this much in recent years as I have now. And I feel like I've got the tools. So let's go put them to use and jump into the competition. So here we are for the qualification round. At the time I'm recording this, I have actually arrived back home in Montreal after the competition has concluded. And so what I'm going to try and do with these voiceovers of our comp round is I'm going to try and keep the results ambiguous, at least in terms of how like the rounds play out and whatnot. Just for the viewers who didn't see the live stream or tune into the scores. I think I'm trying to keep this video like spoiler free, I guess, from start to finish. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna try and delve into my head game, and I'm gonna give you like real time thoughts that I'm like dealing with during the rounds. And I sort of do my debrief and pre-brief in real time, like at the event. So, like I said, here we are for qualifications. As you can see, I've got one top under my belt, and here I am trying another boulder. This one is super, super powerful, and I knew that this one was going to suit my style, and I definitely needed to show my stuff on this boulder. And already this boulder was a good demonstration of a reason that this qualifying round is very, very hard. So maybe you'll notice my attempts got like better and better throughout that boulder. And first, actually, let's shout out this boulder here. This qualification boulder is probably my favorite boulder from the whole event. This thing is super fire. Very pretty boulder, a super cool like one-arm catch move at the start. This boulder was super epic and definitely my favorite from the whole event. But anyway, like I said, my attempts were getting like better and better on that last power boulder. And the reason for that is I was like getting warmer and warmer with every attempt I put on that boulder. And it sort of like went that way throughout the whole qualification round. So the most difficult part of this qualifying round is managing your physical condition and your warmth, and like trying to decide what boulders to try when, and while keeping track of like everybody's beta that's happening around you. It is just brutal. And the reason it's so hard to manage your warmth is because the lines are so long. So this qualification format is like a modified scramble, where there are 8 boulders, you have 3 hours, and you just go try and climb them all. And what happens is everybody queues up at a boulder, and then you wait till your turn is called. Also, I like false start this boulder here, which is why the judge is calling me off, which especially sucks because if you false start on a boulder like that, like I did, that's your turn. You have to go sit in that 20-minute line again before you get to try the boulder. So that false start that I put on, and then this attempt, there were like 20 minutes in between. That's what I mean about this qualifying round being super brutal. And it's also very much not how I train, you know? I train quite fast-paced, so when I have these really long rests while I'm waiting in line, I get really cold, and managing my warmth and my physical condition is like the biggest crux of this qualifying round for me, and Vail is like the biggest example of this. So what I try to do is I try to look for boulders that have short lines and go back and forth between them. And there's a lot of strategy and tactics that go into what boulders I try and when I try them. For now, we are trying a slab, and this one was a really well set slab. And this was actually the first instance of a bit of a theme from this competition that I noticed. So if you notice, I'm mixing and matching my shoes. I have a Tomoe Narasaki Pro on my left and a Cubit on my right. So the reason for the Tomoe is for this smear at the end. So listen, I have obviously been really enjoying the Cubits in training recently, but they haven't quite hit that level of softness that I was predicting them to hit, like the Tomoes did. And the Tomoas like started off feeling pretty stiff, but then softened up really, really fast. And when they softened up, they became like probably my favorite smearing shoe of all time. For those who remember, in the Tomoe Narasaki review, I said that the shoes overall were my second favorite pair of shoes of all time, after like the high angles. But the more that I wear them, the more they might be creeping into first place. And actually, in terms of smearing alone, I say they definitely are first place, actually. And I feel so confident in smearing on these shoes. And another like reason that I have to maximize my smearing is actually because there are a lot of instances coming up where I have to smear on the wall here. And this wall, like the sort of Salt Lake and Vail wall that they transport around for these events, is very slippery, and I need like maximum smearing capabilities in my shoe, which is why I switch between the Cubits and the Tomoas, because the Tomoas are really, really good for smearing, and I needed that extra level up for some of these boulders. And that last boulder that we tried really briefly there on the right, you can see it, was a really hard slab. Nobody topped it, and I wasn't actually able to get the zone, and I used up all 8 of my attempts falling on that move, not able to get a zone, which was actually quite worrisome because a lot of people were getting the zone, and at the time, like I thought that it might be quite crucial to get the zone. So I was really knowing that I was going to need like a good amount of tops after failing to get that zone. And as we are moving on to this boulder, this one I could tell was going to be a pretty key boulder, and it was going to be a key boulder because not a whole lot of people were doing this one. Maybe like half the field did this boulder, or maybe even a little bit less. And I thought that it actually quite suited my style too. So I definitely knew that I had to perform on this thing. And the reason that I say it suited my style was actually not for the reason of this pressing. Like I'm actually not too good at like the friction-based pressing in the middle here, but thankfully that wasn't really the crux. The crux was this finish match, which revolved around like a hard like drop knee split, and I'm all about my splits and my sort of hip mobility. You see that I train my splits a lot, and so I felt right at home at that sequence. At this point, I had 6 tops, which I had a good feeling was going to be enough to make it through. But my mistake from last year's Vail comp was that I didn't try my hardest until the very end, and that cost me. So I actually went back to this teal boulder and put a few more tries on it, even though it turns out that I didn't need it. Okay, so the round just finished. Went a lot better than last year. I guess I didn't mention earlier that I basically went for like the riskier version of this qualifying round. So I was in the first group, and the reason the first group is riskier to compete in is because the second group gets to just sit and watch the first group for the whole time and like look at all the beta, and they know if there's like a boulder that's way too hard and you don't even need to touch, they don't even need to really try it. So it's like riskier to go in the first group. But the reason I did it is because I feel like I might be sluggish in the second group, and if you do well in the first group, now you have more rest until semifinals. Whereas the people that are going in the second group now will not have as much rest before the semifinal round starts. But anyway, so I went for the bigger risk, bigger reward, and I have a feeling it might have paid off. I'm in 4th right now, which is a pretty good spot. Obviously 20 from the sum total of both groups go to the semifinals. So basically, if 17 people beat me in this next group, I'll be bumped out, but it feels pretty unlikely, especially because the first group is like 60 people and the second group is only like 40. That being said, there's probably a few more heavy hitters in the second group, which I didn't realize actually. So it's less people, but maybe a few stronger ones. I like my chances though. So I'll tune in later after the round is finished and we'll see where I end up. Fingers crossed. All right, so let's talk about the semis round. So first of all, obviously I'm very excited to be in the semifinal round. after not making it last year. And this is where I also felt like I had the opportunity to really shine, because the qualification format is so brutal and just like really sucks to compete in because it's so hectic. But now we're in like the ISO format where the playing field is level. Everybody has to go in and compete in the exact same way. Whereas in the qualifying, you know, everybody's round is actually quite different depending on what boulders you do in what order. But here we have just a nice level playing field. You focus on your one boulder for 5 minutes, and you just try your absolute hardest in those 5 minutes. And that's what I love about a semifinal round. So here we are, starting off with a crazy boulder. Okay, so this boulder, we'd actually heard like some rumors before the semifinals started that we would be climbing on these see-through no-text holds. And I think that's actually because somebody had actually seen like a bucket of holds behind the wall with a little like tape label on them that said like men's semifinals. So yeah, I was actually not too surprised to see these holds, but I was very upset because I have never climbed on these holds before. And for those who don't know, these two see-through holds are completely no text. And listen, these holds are like jugs, okay? They're like proper jugs, but you just can't hold them. They are actually so crazy bad. It is comical. I was not ready for this crazy experience. It is so weird to try and grab them. Like what you have to do first of all is get rid of all your chalk. You gotta like wipe your chalk off on your shorts. Some people were even using like the sweat on the back of their neck to moisten up their hands to stick better to these holds. And it was just such a high pressure situation to try and learn a new hold. And it was just, I've just now discovered my actual hate for these holds. Really difficult to use. And here I am finally figuring out how to stick this sequence where I kind of crimp a foothold. And now I'm like proper stressing. I don't think that I can get back up here because I only have like less than a minute. I barely stick that finish hold. And that is my little brother Nate you hear screaming. Like you may have noticed, my family is with me. And the person that you're going to hear yelling throughout this whole round, at least the guy, is my little brother. And he was a great hype man. And you can also hear my mom a lot of the times as well. But yeah, my family was going nuts because I got that crazy send on number one, which wasn't too hard of a boulder relative to the field because it got topped like quite a bit. But it was a crazy top because it was... After I had snagged that finish, I came down in like a state of disbelief. I thought I had fallen for sure, but somehow my hand just stayed on that little mini pinch and I got the send. And so after sending like a boulder that was like completely anti-style and I was just not prepared for it all, I was very happy to have gotten that over with and move on to some more traditional style climbing and climbing on some holds with some actual texture. And when I turned around and saw M2, I said, okay, man, this is my boulder. This is Zach style. I probably need this to have a good standing in this round. That didn't put too much pressure on me, but I definitely felt like my heart rate go up, my adrenaline really kicked in. Like this is the boulder I need to top. And so check out what I'm doing here. I was really proud of what's going on right now. So obviously I dropped the top on my first attempt, and at Vail, at this elevation, there is no room for wasting energy. I knew that the 100% tactically correct decision was to round down the clock and only tried the boulder one more time. Which, for anyone who saw our Beta Block mock comp, I was talking about exactly this, and we practiced this situation when we did that comp simulation, where I dropped the top hold of a boulder on my first try, and I forced myself to rest all the way down and just give the boulder one more attempt, because it is the correct decision to make in that moment. But I was saying in the beta block video, it is the hardest decision that a competitor can make in a high pressure comp round, to say, I only have one more try on this boulder. I have to run down the clock and risk it all, and all the marbles are on this attempt. And when you walk up to the wall feeling that, it is really hard to just find the flow state and find the zone. But I did it on that boulder, and I was so happy. And I have to credit the comp simulations that we did leading up to Vail, because I really practiced these tactics and got those like proper decisions refreshed in my mind. And I was talking about in our comp simulations, when you put enough reps in of proper comp tactics, even though they make you nervous and scared to do them in competitions, the more reps you have under your belt, it starts to become second nature. And even though you feel nervous, the more reps you've put in on them, your body will trust these decisions and it will be easier to do them. Like, obviously, I didn't love the fact that I had to wait down the clock and just give one more try on that boulder on number 2. But deep down, I knew, like, yeah, this is what I need to do. And it gave me more confidence that it's going to work, because I'd been doing it in training recently. So that's why, like, just comp simulations are really great to practice before a really big, important comp. And actually, I also want to credit our coming to Denver early, like a week and a half early, and really getting accustomed to the altitude, because I was able to fully recover after dropping that finish move. And I was like quite exhausted immediately after that attempt. But since we'd been at elevation for so long, my body has like acclimated, and I was able to recover to 100% power for that attempt, which I was really happy about. In previous years, when I had come to Vail maybe only like 3 or 4 days in advance, I don't think I would have recovered that well for that attempt on that boulder. So I'm really, really happy that we did it right, and I came here early enough to have this kind of fitness. And then meanwhile, you see we've been trying semifinal boulder 3, which was the hardest of the round and got no tops. But that being said, that boulder felt super possible, and I actually thought that I had what it took to stick that move off the crimp with the heel catch. I think I actually should have just smeared on the right wall with my right foot, and in hindsight, I wish I'd tried that. But during this round, I could also tell that boulder was probably not super necessary, and I could tell by the crowd's reactions as well that it felt like that boulder may have not even had been topped. That being said, I still gave it my maximum effort because I wanted to get like an edge. But no dice, couldn't quite top it. Also, before we start talking about this last boulder in the semifinal round, I just want to mention, like I would imagine there would be a comment or two about this climber next to me wearing a helmet, but I remember hearing from someone that I guess she had suffered from a head injury recently, like a concussion or something. So no making fun of this person in the comments. That's crazy that they're actually still able to boulder, and the helmet is for safety. And so here we are at the last boulder of the semifinal round. Now, before I'd come out to this boulder, I had heard like the 2 people before me had came back and had topped this boulder. So this was not setting my mental space up for success. That was like really laying down the pressure on me. especially knowing that meant if I didn't top this boulder, my good top of number 2, which wasn't topped by a lot of people, was basically going to be nullified because I took too many attempts on boulder 1. So if somebody had done boulder 1 and boulder 4 in just a few tries, that would better my score of topping the first 2 boulders because I had way too many tries on number 1. And so all of a sudden, my very clutch top of boulder 2, the physical boulder, was gonna mean nothing in terms of making finals. So this was a lot of pressure to deal with. And this style of boulder that we're trying right now is not a good one to be fighting the mega pressure with. This slab was really crazy. It felt like there were a lot of ways to try it. There's like this foot hand stab beta. There's what appears to be switching feet into a toe catch and then doing the hand foot stab, which I would imagine is by design. And then there's this beta that I find with 45 seconds left and is incredibly chill. And I wish I had found it way earlier. I jump for it, and my head in my hand speaks for itself. I thought that cost me finals, but to my surprise, I somehow squeaked in and got the last spot to go to finals. All right. All right, listen. What do we frickin' say? What do we frickin' say?
Finals this year, boys!
Let's go. Oh man, this is gonna be so much fun. This is a dream come true.
Oh, it's gonna be sick.
The fact that we both got this good redemption from last year, oh man. One of us making it in would just be like, it's so hard to make finals. One person would be crazy.
Both of us.
Both of us? Tune in. Oh man. Okay, so I started to just like debrief with my family that's staying with me here, and then I said, hey, you know what? It'd be a good idea to just put on the camera while I'm doing this. Man, I cannot express how hard it was to do what I just did. Like for me personally, what I mean. Like this field is so stacked. I was just having the most intense mental battle I've ever had in a round throughout that whole semifinal. Both of the tops I got were like, I can't believe I stayed on the wall on the last moves. And then even on number 3, I was pushing it as hard as I could. And on number 4, I knew it was mine to not make finals on this boulder. Like I was on track to do it. And I'd seen people that were like topping it. That amount of pressure, you can practice your head game as much as you want, but it is like, you're never going to be able to cope 100% every time. And so the whole time on that last slab, I'm like dipping in and out of like the zone. I go into like, oh crap, I need this to make it. I need to do this right now, to like, nope, stop. That's not the negative spiral. Pull back out of that. Get back into the zone. I'm going in and out of that the whole time. And my mind is hurting. My body's broken. I have like no skin left. I've got like a wrist tweak and a shoulder tweak. I left it all out there, and I can't believe that I squeaked in. And so now I have like, the goal is to make finals. Like, yeah, I want to do well, but there's no more pressure now, and it's, wow, it feels really good. And it's like, it's just that was everything it took. That was everything I had to make it through. And then of course, like gearing up for that last move on the slab, knowing like that amount of pressure I felt in that move, that was one of the moments where I like dipped out of the zone and I didn't have it for that last move. And I thought I blown it there. Hopefully we got a clip of my face and my hands. So those are my raw thoughts. It's hard to like stay composed right now for the video. I'm just like so wired. I have to do as much as I can to recover in the next 3 hours, and then go just have like the most fun I've ever had in a finals round. Like obviously at the beginning of this video, I was saying that my dream is to compete in front of this crowd in finals. It's so huge. I was just talking to Simon Hibbler, and he said that it is like the most crazy fun experience that you can ever have. And that was just getting me so psyched up. And I can't wait to just go and like climb as free as I can and just really, really soak it in. Because it's not every now and then you make a Vail final and you get to compete in front of the crowd. So that's where I'm at. Let's see how finals goes later today. I gotta stay on my skin. It's in carnage right now. Gotta fix it up.
Yuck.
Scrap myself together. Pre-finals health.
Seated in the 6th place position, Helen Gillette. Next down, seated in the 5th place position, Melina Costanza. Next to join us is Chloe Coscoy. Seated in the top 3, Anna Kelly. Nakaya Sanders currently sitting in 2nd place, and coming in the finals round, seated in first, Patty Mullen.
Oh my God, Zach.
Moving on to the gentleman, it's Zach Richardson. Coming in, seated in 5th place, Simon Hibbler. Currently seated in 4th, Ben Wheeler. Next down, sitting in 3rd place, Sander Waller. Getting in the top 2, Matthew Rodriguez. And last out, sitting in the 1st place position, Charlie Vail.
And finally, here we are going into finals. So obviously I am so thrilled to have made it this far. Like me and Matt were saying, this was just such great redemption from last year. And now being in this final round, I'd already accomplished what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to feel what it was like to compete in front of this crowd. But now that being said, it's one thing to compete in a finals round in front of a crazy crowd like this, but it's another thing to put on a great performance for them. So while the baseline goal was accomplished, I still had something to chase in this final round, which was to show off my absolute best. And so we are going to start off with the slab on that journey to showing my best. And I was actually quite excited to try this slab. And the reason for this is, for those who saw the last video to come out on the channel, in the session we had with Matt, there was just one little boulder, one little V9 boulder that had kind of a similar move. It was like a press down, like opposition move like this on a slab. And I remember feeling really strong on it and like surprising myself with my strength on that move. And then this move is like a very similar skill set that's required. And so I actually was really looking forward to trying it. And I end up sticking it on this next try. What I do is I kind of slow down my movement to go to the crimp so I can latch it really well and then go into the press rather than trying to do it in one move. And actually, this move, like the way that I have to do it in sort of 1 and then 2 is fire, like super fire. This slab is kind of like unsuspecting. It looks like a really simple boulder, but this one was actually also one of my favorites from the whole event. That first move was really cool, and this ending is also quite tenuous. The white part of this volume is dual text, so when I'm putting my foot there, I have to like make sure I hit it right on the patch of texture, and that was like a really nice way to start off my final round, obviously. And this really kick-started some positive, like a positive attitude during this final round. And I was definitely feeling like pretty free, not too much pressure, like definitely no unhealthy pressure. If anything, I was just, the pressure I felt was to not miss an opportunity to have a lot of fun, which is a good kind of pressure. Like I basically, my goal was to maximize my experience in this round and maximize my enjoyment and basically create a memory that was going to stay with me, like that will stay with me for a long time. I want to feel really good about this finals round. And another reason that I actually wasn't feeling too much intense pressure to perform and achieve a certain result is because of how freaking stacked this finals round was. I was thinking to myself that this is probably, I would say it's probably the second most intensely competitive final round I've competed in relative to the times. So the first place position for this feeling has definitely got to be the Youth World Championships finals that I made back in 2018. In that final round, I remember feeling like it was so ridiculous to keep up with everybody. Like, I felt like every single person was just like leaving me in the dust, and gaining any ground was just like, I'd never felt that kind of like pressure and heat in a final round before. And I definitely felt like this was a very similar feeling, but not quite there. Like in that Youth World final round, there was like Sam Avezzu, Alberto, obviously the Olympic champion, and a few other like really strong climbers. And that was just like the craziest pressure. And yeah, with this field, like, and knowing that basically everyone in this final can win, it actually takes pressure off of you, right? Because there is really no doing any wrong. Because losing to, or like being beaten by climbers of this caliber is nothing to feel bad about. And so it basically just says like, it basically means go out there on the boulders and try your absolute best and see where you end up. Like, that's the mindset in a final round like this, which is definitely like a way more fun kind of round to compete in, rather than trying to achieve like a certain result. And so we got another top of boulder 2 in this round, which was like the momentum was carrying and the excitement and the fun was building, and I was just having such a great time already. But now we're getting to boulder 3. So boulder 3, I was definitely most interested by. I thought that it actually suited my style quite well. Like, static power on contorted style movements, I actually would put down as a style of mine. I'm definitely pretty mobile as far as the men's field goes. So this boulder sort of looked like you had to get yourself into this contorted drop knee at the beginning and then find your way out of it. Meanwhile, you have to obviously grip these pinches really hard and the zone crimp. So my grip strength would also be an advantage. But the drop knee ends up not being the sequence, which we'll find out later on. But the hard part about trying this boulder at this moment in time was the fact that I was powering out really hard, and I had bloody fingertips after semis, like I mentioned earlier. So I had my fingers were taped up. I was in no condition to be trying a boulder like this, but like I said, I was having the time of my life, and I had so much adrenaline like pumping through my system, and I was so wired that I was able to just force my way through these moves while not being in any sort of condition to try this kind of boulder. And I also want to point out really quick, you can see I'm wearing the Tomoas throughout this final round, and this is just for the same reason that I mentioned earlier. There was like a lot of smearing in this final round, it looked like, and so I definitely felt at home with the Tomoas on especially this boulder and the last boulder we're going to see as well. And so I also knew that this boulder looked like the hardest of the round going into it, so I definitely wasn't going into this boulder expecting to get a top. I was definitely going into this boulder preparing to give like an absolute fight and then just sort of see where I end up. So I had no idea what the outcome of this boulder was going to be. So here you can see on this attempt, I sort of bobble the start, and then I find a better position. This first pinch that you bump off is really bad, and it's just enough to pull you over to the better one. And here you can see I find the better beta. So I do the foot match, which allows me to cross into this crimp. I barely get this heel up, and now I'm like in the territory where I'm like, whoa, I'm still on the wall, and I'm just like fighting my way through, thinking that I could fall at any second, just giving the most absolute try hard. And then I almost like blanked out while I was topping that boulder because I was like surprised to still be on at on the wall at that point. And that was probably the hardest I've ever had to fight for a send on a boulder in that instance. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that's the hardest boulder that I have topped in a competition, but that's the hardest I've tried on a boulder, because I kind of like bobbled the start and then had that heel hook like almost miss when I was trying to get it up. So anyway, I like wasted so much energy and had to fight extra hard to get atop of that boulder. And that was like just a surreal experience to finish that. And obviously you saw by my reaction just how absolutely psyched I was to conquer that battle with that boulder. And now here we are moving into the last boulder of the final round. So warning, this is where things are about to get crazy. So this boulder basically has now turned me into a meme. So you're just kind of supposed to jump off of this black sloper to the finish hold. But I was getting so pumped. My hands are like bleeding. I've got tape peeling off, sweat. I'm like powered out, that I didn't think I could do like the simple power move. And I said, I need to find some like foot first knee bar thing. Maybe I can reach over to the finish. And then I blank out and I end up in this position at the top of the wall. And I obviously have to reach behind my back to match this finish hold. Now listen, that was actually like, I had to move my hand back so slowly because it felt like I could have like slipped at any second and just like ate it, like face plant on the mat. But then to just like slowly reach my hand back, and then now my hand is touching the finish hold. I have never had like such a surreal moment on in a bouldering competition such as that one. And it is obviously very evident by my reaction after topping that boulder. The amount of crazy things that happened throughout this competition, just I felt like I had to let it all out at the top of every boulder during this finals round. So many clutch moments, so much try hard, so much preparation went into this event. It all played out like better than I could ever imagine. And as for my goal of, putting on the performance of a lifetime and experiencing that feeling of just absolute euphoria during a competition that I've been missing for a few years, well, I definitely blew that goal out of the frickin' water. Like, the fact that I'm sitting here at the beginning of this video telling you that I want to put on a crazy performance and feel really hype, and then this happens, it's like I scripted this whole video and it's just actually a movie and everyone in it are actors. That's basically how I'm feeling right now. This, in terms of the feelings, the emotion, the power, the excitement, like Caleb Thomas was setting for this event. He's obviously the chief setter at Block Shop. He came up to me after this round and he said, "Man, you were on one." And that's just the best way that I can put it. I don't think I will ever be on one quite like I was in this round for a very long time, if ever again. That feeling of power and just the feeling that I'm trying to put into words right now, it can only be summed up in my reaction after topping every boulder in this round. It's just a yell. It's just a powerful scream. That's what I was feeling throughout this round. And these moments, I've only had a handful of them over 16 plus years of competing. And this one was by far the most powerful and will probably be the most unforgettable. And that is exactly what I wanted to feel at this competition. And it's like the culmination of all this preparation and all of like the hard training and the mental battles I've had over the years to just feel the satisfaction of just not even like, making it all count, but just finding like the beauty in all of it along the way. that's what competing has become for me. And it's less about the results, and it's more about just letting out your feelings and showing the crowd who you are as a person. That's what competing is to me now. And that's what I did to the best of my abilities at this event. And I don't think I'll ever do it as well as I did it at this event. And that's what I'm being left with. And that's why this was just such an amazing competition and what I call a dream come true. This performance was just so much fun. And the fact that I got to share the process and put it all together in a YouTube video for this community is the absolute mega cherry on top. So I actually want to leave you on a pretty cheesy tip of the day for this episode. It was definitely at the forefront of my mind throughout this whole competition. And I actually had like my last Instagram caption was basically this tip of the day condensed into like 2 sentences or something. But here's the longer version. So today's tip of the day is going to be about the process. And you know what? More specifically, it's about loving your process and creating the best possible process for you. So what I mean by this idea is I could ramble on for a long time about this tip of the day, but let's try to keep it as concise as possible. I've wanted to quit competing a lot of times over the years because I basically grew up excelling in a lot of sports. I excelled at soccer. I was like always at the top of my class. Even when I was younger in climbing, I was always like the strongest in the youth D category. And so this almost like brainwashed me while I was young to really think that I had the potential to be the absolute like best in the world or something at what I put my mind to. And it was basically sort of like an unhealthy kind of brainwashing. And I had to really struggle for years to grasp the fact that it's not just a decision that you can make to go be the best in the world or accomplish like a definitive result or achievement. You can't just decide to do that. And I feel like there's a lot of almost unhealthy propaganda that says you can, that we all sort of like to buy into, you know, like just set your mind to it and you will achieve it. It doesn't always work. And it took a long time for me to wrap my head around that, especially when I was younger. And I would like to counter the idea of setting your mind to something and it will happen with just set your mind to loving everything you do. And yes, I know how this sounds, but when you can find a way to just take every single day of your life and find the maximum amount of happiness from it, try and tell me that isn't going to be a more fulfilling way to live than putting your head down and training like ridiculously hard and torturing yourself to go achieve like a gold medal at, I don't know, a World Cup or something. This is the way I started to live by a few years ago when I made the transition from being immature to mature. And this is what I would encourage a lot of people to do as well. And this is not, this isn't just about climbing, you know, this is about anything. This is about work, school, relationships, everything in your life. Love your process and find a way to love everything you do every single day. And there's no way that you can fail in life. And that's how I'm really thinking about climbing, especially these days. And a big part of finding happiness in my everyday process was when I decided to start sharing it on YouTube with everybody, you know, and sharing it with this community. Basically, I just take all of this training that's supposed to be work and pressure and turn it into something fun that I get to share with people. And even if it goes well or it doesn't go well, others can learn from the process, learn from my mistakes, and gain value in it, gain value from it. And so it's almost like I'm passing it along. I can pass along failures if they happen and help other people. And I achieve satisfaction from helping others at the very least if I don't achieve, you know, my own goals or desires. There's different ways that I can achieve satisfaction and happiness from this process. And that was like a way that I had to creatively think about finding, basically I had to think creatively in order to find a way to achieve happiness and success from the process rather than staking it all on results. And I think that, whatever sort of lifestyle you're living, you can find creative ways to find happiness and really get the most out of your process. And I think that is that's the tip of the day I want to leave you with on this episode, is to maximize your process, maximize your happiness. And in my opinion, that is what life is about. And every now and then you'll have these fleeting moments where you get to stand at the top of the boulder wall and scream at the crowd and let out all of that built up happiness and just emotion that's been built up from this process. And that's what obviously happened in this competition, and that's a lot of fun when it happens too. So really quick, I'm like a stats guy. I like stats, I like fun facts, and I definitely have a couple fun ones from this event that I want to share really quick. And the first one, I double checked this, but I could be wrong. But if I'm not, so in this field of 126 men, I think, for this Vail North American Cup, there were 4 men that have previously won a North American Cup since it was turned into the North American Cup Series. Like, it actually used to be like the USA Climbing National Cup Series. Even then, I think this fact still might be true. But anyway, in terms of the North American Cups, there were 4 winners in this pool of 125 or 6 guys. And they finished in the top 4 spots of this event. So Charlie Barron, obviously, he won the Montreal North American Cup a couple years ago. And then myself in second, I won in Alexandria also 2 years ago. I think the same season that Charlie won. And then Xander won the first North American Cup when it was turned into the North American Cup Series in Albuquerque, in which myself and Simon Hibbler were both also in that final round. And then Simon obviously has won North American Cups. Last year, I guess I didn't mention this yet, he almost swept the season. He was third at the first one, he won Vail last year, and then he also won the last one of the season in Quebec. So I thought that was a pretty fun fact. The fact that all 4 winners were the top 4. And then another quick fun fact. So this is my 6th North American Cup that I've competed in. And out of those 6 North American Cups, I have made 5 finals. And the one final that I did not make was Vail last year, obviously, when I did not make the semifinal. And out of those 5 finals that I've made, I have been 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So all different results, but I haven't been 3rd yet. So maybe that could be Canada coming up in a couple weeks. Who knows? But yeah, I thought that was also a fun fact. But anyway, it is time for a big thank you to a lot of people. A performance like this and an experience like this does not come just from one person alone. So I gotta thank, obviously, my family came here to support me, and they were an absolute epic hype crew. It really gives you an edge when you have family or friends around you when you're trying to compete in a high pressure situation. The support is like a really impactful thing. And so it was actually like mega helpful that I had my mom, my brother, and my sister that all came to watch me and support me. And it made just the whole experience of being in the competition atmosphere more enjoyable. So gotta thank my family. Gotta thank all of our sponsors. We gotta thank Roseblock for providing us some epic sets to train on and get like really good at slabbing coordination for these comp boulders. Gotta thank Parallel for these crazy Tomoas that are just smearing on these slippery American walls and just sticking and staying. Especially on that last boulder when I threw my foot up to the finish. I actually missed it. I didn't mention that. My foot missed the finish hold and landed on the wall and didn't slip because of how good the smearing is. So I actually got saved. I got saved a lot throughout this competition, and that was just one of the examples. And then we actually have a couple sponsors I don't think I've mentioned yet on this channel, but I gotta make sure I do going forward. I gotta get my crap together. So we got Rehab in a Pinch, which is a physiotherapist who is actually based out of Calgary and is a supporter of Maddie and mine. and is great for like supporting high level Canadian athletes. And then also we got a brand called Clevo Climbing who make these indoor I meant to say doorway, hangboard, and pull-up systems. And I got to feature this in the video soon. We just got it actually shipped to us right before I left for Vail. And this thing is going to come in super clutch. It's a super good hangboard setup for your doorway. And now I can start doing all my hangboard at home, which is pretty awesome. So I definitely got to feature this thing in an upcoming video. But yeah, those are some of the thank yous, obviously, that I can come up with off the top of my head. But there are so many more people to thank. And lots of resources went into putting on a performance like this. Setters in Montreal, friends, training partners, you name it. So thanks to everyone that ever helped me along the way to putting on just an unforgettable performance and an experience that will stay with me for a very long time. So anyway, that's the Vail North American Cup. That was a fun time. I can't believe that happened. Season is only just getting started. We got another one coming up in like 2.5 weeks in Canada. Lots more comps to come. And stay tuned for some more sessions. Follow along the journey. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. It's all about the process, and I'm going to share my process with you. So let's keep going. See what we can do next. Insert Catchy Pitocho here.